Here we are back again, and I'm super excited to get started today because today I'm going to be reacting to this video called Debunked: The Fossil Record Proves Evolution, published by Reasons for Hope. And I'm so excited to react to this video.
Forrest, thank you so much for taking the time to respond to our video. You know, Debunked was created back in the day, and still to this day, to create conversation. So dude, thank you so much for taking the time to respond to our video. And what I want to do now is respond back to your response, because I appreciate that you are trying to hold us accountable for the things that we're saying. So now I want to hold you accountable for the things that you're saying. And again, just thank you so much for taking the time, man. It means a lot to us.
And they published this video there in 2 parts, and somebody tagged me in that video asking me to do a Reacteria episode about it. And Reasons for Hope commented on their comment, calling them out and saying that they were a problem and that they should already know all this stuff and not have to call somebody else in to come fight their battles for them, which is a remarkably thing to say.
Dude, telling somebody to think for themselves is not bad advice. It's not something wrong to say to somebody, man. What it's called is critical thinking. And what we want people to do is critically think about the elements of their worldview. And we try and do that to prevent them from getting onto some Forrest dude's YouTube channel and watching some misinformation. It's like, dude, don't even believe what I'm saying. Check what I'm saying. Check what Forrest is saying. Do the research for yourself and make a defense for yourself.
Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this, perhaps, is the most obvious and gravest objection which can be urged against my theory. The explanation lies, as I believe, in the extreme imperfection of the geological record.
Okay, first of all, you said here that this quote is from chapter 10 of On the Origin of Species. It isn't. It's from chapter 9. And if you grab your copy of On the Origin of Species and you open it up to chapter 9, you'll see here that this chapter is titled On the Imperfection of the Geological Record.
Actually, the 1872 6th edition does have our quote in the 10th chapter, but that's totally our bad for putting 1859 down there. That's our mistake, and we totally own that, man. Thank you for calling us out on the accuracy on that one, because we own it, man. I mean, it should have said 1872 instead of 1859.
This entire chapter is about why the fossil record is incomplete and why just saying that it's incomplete isn't a good argument against evolution. So he wasn't admitting that the fossil record debunks the idea of evolution here. He was being academically honest.
Wait, saying the fossil record is inadequate to support his theory is a problem. That is a problem. You can't just say something's true and not have evidence to back it up. Darwin literally says this in the same chapter. The several difficulties here discussed, namely, are not finding in the successive formations infinitely numerous transitional links between the many species which now exist or have existed, the sudden manner in which the whole groups of these species appear in our European formations, the almost entire absence, as at present known, of fossiliferous formations beneath the Silurian strata are all undoubtedly of the gravest nature. We see this in the plainest manner by the fact that all of the most eminent paleontologists, namely Cuvier, Owen, Agassiz, Barrandi, Falconer, etc., and all of our greatest geologists as Lyell, Murchison, Sedgwick, and have unanimously often vehemently maintained the immutability of species. I feel how rash it is to differ from these great authorities, to whom, with others, we owe all our knowledge. Those who think the natural geological record in any degree perfect, who do not attach much weight to the facts and arguments of other kinds given in this volume, will undoubtedly at once reject my theory. And speaking of rash, Darwin doesn't even have any degrees in paleontology, but that would be discounting his ability to have an opinion on it, which is getting way ahead of ourselves. We're going to come back to that one in just a little bit. Stay tuned.
Even if he didn't have any fossils, it wouldn't matter. This book was published in 1859. We've discovered a lot more fossils since then. Millions, by your own admission.
Okay, great. We finally agree on something. That's a fact. But let's ask Gunter Beckley what he says about the fossil record. Gunter Beckley is a German paleontologist who specializes in fossil history. He served as curator for amber and fossil insects in the Department of Paleontology at the State Museum of Natural History in Stuttgart, Germany. He's also Senior Fellow of Discovery Institute's Center for Science and Culture.
Fossils provide really good evidence for evolution.
Yeah, that's what I was taught in school too. But is the fossil record really good evidence for evolution? I asked Dr. Gunter Beckley, a fossil expert. He has discovered 180 new species in the fossil record and published over 160 scientific papers.
It is often believed that the fossil record is great support for Darwin's theory. Actually, this is not the case at all. The theory predicts slow changes, but the fossil record shows rapid changes. The theory predicts that new forms accumulate by addition of little small steps, but the fossil record shows they appear out of nothing suddenly.
So, the millions of fossils discovered actually go against what Darwin predicted. I have no idea why that girl was wearing a mask, but I figured if I'm going to keep this portion of the program going, I must follow suit.
We don't worship Darwin. Darwin is not the final arbiter of biology. He was just a dude. That's it. Seriously, you gotta leave Darwin alone. Although I do admit, Darwin is my favorite.
I'm confused. Do we quote Darwin or not? Are we using him? Cake? Eat? I don't know. What I need to do is show you my favorite highlight of your video, Forrest, that just absolutely just dumbfounds me.
The fossil record doesn't show gradual change, and every paleontologist has known that ever since Cuvier, or however you pronounce that.
Do you know what that quote was about? Punctuated equilibrium. It's a model for understanding the fossil record. It doesn't go against evolution. It's a way of understanding evolution.
All right. Punctuated equilibrium. I have so much to say about that, but let's start right here.
Some evolutionists basically admit that the many expected transitional fossils don't actually exist. They argue that the fossil record simply didn't have enough time to record the transitions. That was the view of two leading evolutionists who proposed a theory called punctuated equilibrium,
which said that basically species change so abruptly they don't have enough time to leave any transitional forms, and that was how they accounted for the lack of transitional forms in the fossil record.
The fossil record clearly demonstrates that organisms don't suddenly appear.
The phenomenon of sudden appearances in the fossil record is not just an exceptional case, but actually is a pattern that is found everywhere. The origin of life, the origin of photosynthesis, the Avalon explosion, the Great Ordovician biodiversification event, the Silurian-Devonian terrestrial revolution, the Devonian-Nekton revolution, and the Odontode revolution, the Carboniferous insect explosion, the Triassic explosions, the origin of flowering plants, the origin of butterflies, the Neo-Avian revolution of modern birds, the placental mammal radiation, the origin of the genus Homo, and finally the Upper Paleolithic human revolution.
Now that is a serious list of big jumps in the fossil record.
If you look at the technical literature, we can see references to a fish explosion, a bird explosion, a dinosaur explosion, a mammal explosion, and even the origin of our own genus Homo has been referred to as a Big Bang theory of human evolution, because we see throughout the fossil record different types of organisms appearing abruptly without this gradual change that Darwin's theory predicted.
So, back to this punctuated equilibrium. Scientists now know through the fossil record that what Darwin predicted isn't true. We have the sudden appearance of total groups coming together, which really agrees with Genesis, that says that in the beginning God created. That doesn't agree with Darwin. It agrees with what Moses wrote about Genesis. And the word punctuated equilibrium is just a made-up word by Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldredge, who literally invented the term. You can't just go around inventing words and expecting people to go, oh, well, okay, let's do that.
You can't just go around making up new words. You know what would happen if everyone just made up words whenever they wanted?
Snoop Schnosh-Snee.
Chaos.
What if I came up with like thievery bon aldebrain? And thievery bon aldebrain is my term for the fact that I can steal your car. And so your law doesn't mean anything to me, because those facts about the law about not stealing a car being wrong and going to jail don't mean anything, because thievery bon aldebrain is what I subscribe to, and thievery bon aldebrain is going to excuse me to be able to steal your car. And there's nothing you can do about it, because my fact is fact because I made it up.
In this book here, called Creation and Evolution, Compatible or in Conflict, by J. Seegert. Let's look that guy up. J. Seegert has a degree in engineering technology and spent 14 years in the computer programming industry before entering full-time ministry. He's the co-founder and principal speaker of the Creation Education Center in Wisconsin. Why would a computer programmer be writing books about evolution? That's a man who spent 14 years programming computers trying to convince you that he understands biology better than all the people who have devoted their whole lives to studying it.
Oh. Let's just first of all take your credentials fallacy, which is a logical fallacy, to say that just because somebody doesn't have the credentials in that field, they can't know the truth about that field. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but if I see somebody throwing up and they're running a fever, I'm pretty sure they're sick.
Doctor?
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 Doctor,
Doctor?
doctor,
Doctor?
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 And doctor.
Okay, so if you're going to use the credentials fallacy, which is a simple logical fallacy that to dismiss J. Seegert, who I don't even know why we're talking about J. Seegert, but I'll come back to that, you're also dismissing Darwin. He has no credentials in any of the fields, so everything he wrote in The Origin of Species, according to your logical fallacy, should be dismissed because he doesn't have the credentials. Which, by the way, I tried to find your credentials online, and I know you said you have multiple degrees in biology, which, can I just say you spent more time like talking about biology than the fossil record in this entire thing? I thought you were talking about the fossil record. But really, the worst thing you've done is, man, the red herring. You are a master at the red herring argument. You've spent almost over 5 minutes of your time talking about J. Seegert, who we never quoted J. Seegert. We quoted original sources. You brought J. Seegert into this thing, and you even had some mad attack in the middle of it, which I don't know if you need some medication or something like that, because, man, I mean, it was kind of freaky to watch that. And then some of your comments, people enjoyed that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old and I don't understand these things. But anyways, good job on the red herring tactic, man. I for a red herring challenge, I give you a 12 out of 10 for that one. That's a good one.
Evolution is not a worldview. It's a fact.
What? Evolution is not a fact. It really depends on your definition of evolution. If you're talking about gradual changes over time and adaptations, then we agree. But if you're talking about an amoeba turns into a fish, turns into a worm, turns into a rodent, that turns into an ape-like creature, into a human being at some point in time, we're totally not jiving together, man. And sorry, but the fossil record doesn't support that. But just to be clear on the fact of evolution, let's turn to one of the evolution gods of today, Mr. Science Guy, Bill Nye. Wait, Bill Nye doesn't have a science degree either. Oh, we're back to that miscategory fallacy of credentials.
Change. Living things change over time. There are little changes and big changes. Whoa. That's evolution.
I'm just not sure how to take that seriously. I don't even know what to say right now. Let me see if I can help Bill with what he's trying to describe. So he's basically saying evolution changes from one species into a whole nother species. There, we fixed it. You look good there, Bill.
Can we fix it? Yes, we can! Evolution is not a worldview. It's a fact. Scientists are debating how evolution happens and why evolution happens, but they are not debating if evolution happens.
Wait, hold on. You're saying evolution is a fact, but scientists don't know how or why? How can you call something fact when you don't know how or why? That would be like me trying to tell you, trust me, invest in this stock because it's going to go big. And you're like, why should I invest in that stock? How do you know it's going to go big? I've seen other stocks go big. Well, were they like this stock? Had nothing to do with that. But I've seen stocks go big, and since I've seen stocks go big, I think this stock will go big too, because I've seen stocks go big before. I don't know how or why they went big. But that doesn't matter. Just give me all your money. You ain't getting a penny of my money, brother. You see, I teach students all the time that you have to know why you believe what you believe. We're back to that critical thinking again. If you don't know why you believe what you believe, your what is useless. You need to know why these things are true or why these things are false. Period.
A theory is not a guess.
Theory. Noun. An idea that is suggested or presented as possibly true, but that is not known or proven to be true. Theory. Theory. Theory.
Question 1. Did the artiste take any artistic license with what I'm looking at here? Check this out, because this happens all the time. Look, isn't that sweet? So cute and fluffy. Okay, why do you think the artist made these creatures appear more human-like by throwing in an affectionate smile and depicting them hanging out like a human family going to a picnic or something? Why did he draw them walking upright? Why make the shapes and colors of their eyes more human than ape? Is any of it based on actual fossil evidence?
Let's answer each of those questions one by one. Number 1. We know what their faces looked like because of the fields of paleoanthropology and forensics and comparative anatomy that allow us to reconstruct facial features from skulls.
So let me get you straight. We can look at a human skull and not really know if it's black or white or what region of the world it was born in or anything like that. The skull can't tell us that, but you're saying that a paleoanthropologist can take a skull, like we know what the shapes of the eyes are, of course, but they can't take a skull and reconstruct a face on there. They don't have a face to reconstruct. They've never found one. So shouldn't we just go to the zoo and check out what the faces look like of the animals in the zoo? Why do they have much more hair than they normally have in the museums? And the last time I was at a zoo, like, apes are like, throwing poo at each other and stuff, and I won't even tell you what this mom had to like take her kid's head and turn it away because this chimp was doing something that we don't just no need to talk about. As a matter of fact, there's a quote from a guy who's an artist in the museum, and here's literally what he said. I wanted to get a human soul into this ape-like face to indicate something about where he was headed. How do you know where he was headed? Like I said, man, they're like throwing poo at each other in the zoo, man. There's one time this chimpanzee, I thought we were dancing together, and he was dancing on the other side of this piece of glass, and man, all of a sudden he flung 10 feet in the air and slammed that glass, scared me half to death. He certainly wasn't pondering his own existence.
Number 2, they're all gathered together in a group like they're going to a picnic like this because humans are social animals.
I take great care with this one to say that humans are social animals. We're not animals, man. I wish I could get you to see that. We're not animals at all. The Bible tells me we are created in God's image. And there's a reason why humans are so different than every other species that's out there. Because we're not animals at all. There's nothing animal-like about us. So please, man, understand, you're specially created for us. You're not some sort of animal that's just evolved into this. Why is it that we're sending men to moon and rovers to Mars, and we've got medical technology that blows my mind? You don't see any animal species even remotely close to doing any of those things because they're animals and you're not, Forrest.
They're depicted as walking upright because they walked upright.
Okay, kids. Here's where we strap on those critical thinking hats. Let's see what happens when Forrest makes his next statement.
And we know that for sure because of the fossil evidence. We see that the foramen magnum is positioned in the bottom of the skull, not in the back of the skull.
Let's see what National Geographic had to say about the foramen magnum. And again, let's strap on our critical thinking hats. The headline says this, but what does the article say? Title: The way you walk is tied to a hole in your skull. It says it right there. I mean, put it down. We know. No reason to keep reading. But other researchers have cast doubt on whether this curious skull opening really is a clear indicator of striding about on two legs. A connection between the foramen magnum and the bipedalism seems right, but there's not much hard evidence to back up the link. There's that link again. And as researchers William Kimball and Yoel Rack suggested in 2010 study, the position of the skull opening may have more to do with the posture of the trunk than walking upright. In talking about lemurs, National Geographic went on to say, these primates are not bipeds like us or some other mammals in the study, but nevertheless, those that hold their bodies upright have a foramen magnum position forward of species with different postures.
We can see the shape of their spine, the shape of their pelvis, the shape of their feet. We can see the angle of their knees, all adaptations for bipedal walking.
Ping! Did you notice that? When he put up illustrations of what he was talking about, they were illustrations, not fossils. He didn't put up a single fossil evidence. Those were all pictures. And as we've discussed, we've got lots of imaginations that run wild in museums and put up all kinds of illustrations full of creative fables drawn by inventive people instead of actual fossil evidence. But to further understand the truth about fossil evidence, let's bring on one of the all-time heroes of the faith, Lucy.
We needed Owen Lovejoy's expertise again, because the evidence wasn't quite adding up. The knee looked human, but the shape of her hip didn't.
So we have a misshaped hip that doesn't fit the narrative that they're trying to tell you. Let's find out why.
Superficially, her hip resembled a chimpanzee's, which meant that Lucy couldn't possibly have walked like a modern human. But Lovejoy noticed something odd about the way the bones had been fossilized.
When I put the two parts of the pelvis together that we had, this part of the pelvis has pressed so hard and so completely into this one that it caused it to be broken into a series of individual pieces which were then fused together in later fossilization.
Okay, can anyone tell me how dead bones fuse together? Dead bones? Anyone? Anyone?
Bueller.
Come on, man.
This has caused the two bones, in fact, to fit together so well that they're in an anatomically impossible position.
No, just no. They're perfectly shaped for a quadruped, just like the fossil. You mean to tell me that this thing, dead bones fused back together in a perfect anatomical shape of a quadruped? This evolution thing is more amazing than I ever thought. But wait, there's more. If you act on the lunacy of this argument, we'll also throw in a new
The perfect fit was an illusion that made Lucy's hip bones seem to flare out like a chimp's. But all was not lost. Lovejoy decided he could restore the pelvis to its natural shape. He didn't want to tamper with the original, so he made a copy in plaster. He cut the damaged pieces out and put them back together the way they were before Lucy died. It was a tricky job, but after taking the kink out of the pelvis, it all fit together perfectly, like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. As a result, the angle of the hip looks nothing like a chimp's, but a lot like ours.
So let me get this straight. We have a miraculously dead bone fused together chimpanzee hip that's perfectly anatomically correct, and now we've allowed a scientist to take modern machinery to refabricate this bone structure into a hip that now modeled a bipedal walker. You just can't make this stuff up, kids. And this is what they're teaching dogmatically in schools.
We're not trying to make them look more human and less ape. Humans are apes. Yes, this painting is based on actual fossil evidence.
No, it's not based on solid fossil evidence. Let me show you one of my favorite recent ones. This is a walking whale. Yep, an Egyptian walking whale. Walk like an Egyptian whale. Anyways, This is what the picture shows. This is the artwork. This is the creative imagination. Look at these three fellows. They're so proud of their little fossil collection that they found. You tell me, with your critical thinking hat on, how did they come up with this based off of these pile of pieces, fragments of various parts of this whale? That's nothing but imagination and fable, kids.
For instance, on this one from the dinosaur book, you got solid red columns and white columns showing gradual progression over time. But let's read the almost imperceptible 2-point font over here. It reads, tinted areas indicate solid fossil evidence, which means the white areas represent no solid fossil evidence, right? Okay, then take them away. Uh-oh, looks like patterns hauntingly reminiscent of creation, I'd say, right from their own charts.
You'll also notice that this isn't a cladogram. This isn't shaped like a family tree.
Hold on. It's not a family tree? The chart that you were referencing in our video, it literally says family tree twice in there. Once here and once here. It literally says that. And how about this chart that was created to celebrate the publishing of The Origin of Species and Charles Darwin's birthday? This chart was published. Let me show you what happens when you take away all the alleged connections. You get nothing but question marks. You probably didn't notice those question marks in there in the first place. They were there. I didn't put them in there. Those question marks are there because they have no clue. So when you're trying to be sold this fossil evidence supports transitional, no, it doesn't. They don't have anything.
Those types of diagrams are made from inferences.
Infer. Verb. To form an opinion from evidence. To form an opinion from evidence. That's all it is, an opinion. That's what infer means. And some opinions, well, they stink. They're terrible. Don't go with those. Somebody says smell this, don't smell it. It's never going to work out good for you.
We had to be given a chart with saying here's species 1 through 12 or whatever, and here are the traits that they have. And we have to use those traits to construct the most parsimonious phylogeny, or the most logical family tree.
But wait, we're back to the family tree again. I thought this wasn't a family tree. I'm so confused right now.
Cladograms don't work the way that these people think that they do. They showed all of the straight lines, and then they pulled away all of the diagonal lines. And they said, see, these are all horses, and these are all bats, and these are all whatever, and there's no transitional forms in here. And what they don't realize is that those straight lines are full of transitional forms.
You say the straight lines are full of transitions? That's all they are? Kids, put on your critical thinking hats again and let's ask the question. Let's look to scientists, paleontologists, and see what they have to say. I'm going to play a clip from David Attenborough, and I want you to listen closely to what he says.
Now people can say, okay, you say we're primates, like monkeys and apes, and that we came from very simple, generalized mammals. Show us the link. The link, they would have said, until now, is missing. Well, it is no longer missing.
According to the scientists, up until Ida was found, there was no missing link. They had no links for transitions for human evolution. They had none. But Ida came along, and guess what, kids? They finally got their link. Because what is the website called? The link. What is the book called? The link. What is the TV show called? The link. What is the T-shirt called? The link. They found, it's the link. The link.
The team thinks they believed it could shed new light on human evolution. She seems to be a bit of both. This could be it. It could help science. Could everyone on the planet be connected to this amazing find? Could hold the clue to link Ida to man. Could reveal her ancient behavior. It could shine a light deeper into our history than ever before. Could show whether it's a link to man's early evolution. They may have found the first ever link to human beings.
If I'm trying to sell you on a concept or an idea, would I use terminology such as could be, possibly, maybe, possibly, could be? They know the truth.
We are, of course, not stating that this is our direct ancestor. That's too much.
Wait, what? That's too much?
What you talking about, Willis?
Here's what the main researcher said when the whole thing went bust. This actually crawls up my spine a little bit because I remember a massive I think it was Neil Bortz, was on the radio, and I was listening to him when Ida first popped out, and he was like, oh, I told you pesky little Christians that believe all this nonsense that we know that we came from common ancestry and now we have the link. And like 2 weeks later, the whole thing went bust. Did he come back on the air and say, hey, I was wrong? Did any of the news publications that blew this thing out of the water come back and say that was wrong? No, they never did. Listen to what he said. No, I do not regret the media blitz at all. Ida is still one of the most iconic fossils and the only complete primate fossil ever. Primate fossil. Whether or not she's a direct ancestor, something we never claimed in the scientific paper. What was the website called? What was the TV show called? What was the book called? What was the t-shirt called? It's just part of the story. She is undoubtedly the only fossil that tells us what an early primate really looked like. Other fossils are mostly fragments.
All the chief laws of paleontology plainly proclaim, as it seems to me, that species have been produced by ordinary generations, old forms having been supplanted by new and improved forms of life, produced by the laws of variation still acting around us, and preserved by natural selection.
Say what?
Wait, how did you get back to this assumptive jump again, man? Like, the records do not support this theory. They haven't, and they certainly don't now. Look, in closing, again, thank you for taking the opportunity, Forrest. I appreciate it. I hope your viewers and our viewers have learned what proper dialogue looks like and how to make a defense for your worldview. And Forrest, if there's anything we can ever do for you, please reach out. You are a friend of our ministry. I respect that you have a different opinion than what we have. But again, it's just an opinion. And we're praying for you. Whether you want us to or not, I truly believe in prayer. And so I'm going to be praying for you, Forrest, and for all of your viewers. Hey, God bless you. Thank you again, man.